Greetings, YouTube. I want you to imagine that you are in battle, that you are under heavy fire. You're pinned down. You've got nowhere to go. There's a path that you can see to safety, but you can't take it because if you go for it, you're going to die. And you know this because you watched some of your fellow soldiers do it. They've made a dash for freedom and they've been gunned down. So you stay where you are and you pray. But eventually, the gunfire begins to slack off. And you see one of the soldiers makes it. You see someone else die, but then the next person makes it too. So you're starting to think, maybe I can take the risk. But no one's going to judge you for that if you don't run at any particular moment, because the fire is still there. It is still happening. It's just not as heavy as it was. No one is going to judge you for that because everyone's risk assessment is different, and you have been pinned down for a very long time. But you have to make that choice. And you keep praying that it'll slack off some more. So why am I talking about a theoretical battle? Well, I'm not talking about a theoretical battle. I'm talking about a theoretical circumstance, but a real battle. That real battle is the battle that women have found themselves in for millennia, constantly under a barrage of sexual harassment and assault. And knowing that if they try to come forward, at least until very recently, they would be metaphorically gunned down by society. They would be hit with a barrage of comments such as, well, what was she wearing? Or what was she doing in that neighborhood? She went to a frat party. What did she expect? Well, she was high at the time, so these things happen. Was it legitimate rape? So women have known this. They've seen what happens to their fellow women who come forward and whose lives are erased, are destroyed because they have come forward and said, this man harassed me. This man assaulted me. And yes, I know that men are harassed, both by women and other men. I know that women are harassed by other women. But men are the predominant predators here, and we all know that. So don't try to diffuse this thing. We know that the most of the people harassing other human beings sexually and assaulting other human beings are men. We know this. And women have known if they come forward, their lives could be ruined. So they've had to make that risk assessment analysis. They've had to decide, is it worth it to me? And until quite recently, lots of them said no. But there has been a very tiny, minuscule, infinitesimal social shift recently. And people are starting to listen. People are starting to believe the women when they come forward. And suddenly, there are men being held accountable. There are men suffering consequences for their actions. And don't tell me that, oh, it's just boys being boys bullshit. Because these men, these predators, have learned when the atmosphere is correct for them to prey and when it isn't. They don't do these things in places where they're going to get hit with consequences. They do them in a way that they know they can slide it under the radar. But thankfully, we're tuning that radar. We're getting better at seeing the bullshit that the harassers and the assaulters, which are often the same people, have been using for millennia. We've known for a long time that men in power will abuse that power. And one of the ways they abuse that power is by asserting their position of power through sexual assault and sexual harassment. It's also one of the ways they keep women from going after their position of power. If they can make women feel uncomfortable, they can make women feel unsafe. That means women will not be in the industries that they are in. And it's another way that they can secure their position, furthering the aims of the patriarchy. And all of this is wrapped up in the toxic masculinity that is associated with the patriarchy. And yes, I know, you're going to start throwing, oh, you're talking about feminist things. And you're damn well right I am. things are starting to shift. The gunfire is starting to lessen, and some people are taking the risk to come forward and speak. So there isn't a floodgate of accusations going on. It's just that we've gotten to the point where the people who have been harassed and assaulted have now realized that some people are listening, and maybe it's okay for them to speak out. The floodgates have always been open. It's just for the first time we're doing something about trying to save the victims caught in the flood.